Hey guys, happy Thursday. We are on day 9 of the Duane Davis, Keffe D, Tupac trial, whatever it is that you're calling it. If you missed yesterday, because it kind of happened in the blink of an eye, we had a half day of court yesterday, but it still ended early because the state called one witness to introduce some jail calls, YouTube clips, and a clip from this trial in front of the jury. And then they rested their case. So they did a little bit of housekeeping to discuss scheduling. The defense said that they plan to call 3 witnesses that all seem to be members of law enforcement. And then Keefe D he hasn't signaled that he's going to testify, but ultimately he can still make the decision. Put your predictions in the chat if you think he will testify or won't testify. Put your opinions on whether you think he should or shouldn't testify. Or maybe if you just want to see it, because who wouldn't want to see another witness, the defendant, take the stand? And then the state said they had 2 rebuttal witnesses that they may call. So they believe that even with the rebuttal witnesses, they can get it all wrapped up today. That means the evidence will close. That will be the end of the presentation of evidence. Friday, the judge, I guess they might be doing jury instructions. It's when the attorneys get together and make sure that the instructions they read to the jury, as well as anything that might be present or shouldn't be on the verdict slip, is sorted out before they get the jury back in for closings. Law and Crime Kathy Roussan said that it seems like court might be dark on Friday. So if that's the case, we won't be streaming anything with this trial tomorrow. But if they will be live with some jury instructions, we'll go live and we'll watch that. It can be boring. It can be pretty interesting. You never know. And then Monday, closing arguments. So if you've been wondering, what are the point of some of the questions that we've seen? Why were certain witnesses called? Is it going to be a problem that some witnesses weren't called? Well, you're going to be able to see how both sides reconcile everything that's been introduced through this trial, through the testimony and evidence so far, with the way they make their final arguments to the jury before deliberations. And remember, there's only 1 count charged. I'm not sure if there's going to be any lessers sent back. It'd be kind of odd to do so. The reason I say that is the state has not alleged any accidental theory. They seem to be completely married to the theory that this was planned and that Keefe D was the principal to this shooting. He didn't pull the trigger himself, but he planned it. He called the shots. However, it is possible that maybe they'll want to introduce some lesser includeds. Oh, it was just opportune, or there was nothing he could do to prevent it, but he supplied the gun out of panic, out of a moment of passion after just finding out that his nephew had been attacked by people. I don't know. So we'll see about that. And then it'll go to the jury. It'll go to the jury. Jury has to be unanimous here in their decision. And even though we've had some questions, won't know, can't really predict what they're going to do with certainty until they come out and say what they're doing. Pink Staffy in the building, good to see you. Says, I would want to see him on the stand. However, I don't think he will. That's kind of where I'm at. And when I say it would just be out of curiosity, if you get on the stand in this trial, are you going to present yourself as the same person you presented yourself as in these other interviews? What are you going to say that's the same? What are you going to say that's different? How are you going to react when it's cross-examination time and the state, as it would be their right to do so, brings up certain recent convictions? Now, it hasn't been discussed too much in this trial because it would be prejudicial otherwise, but if the defendant takes the stand and cross-examination happens, the jury might be able to hear about things that they wouldn't be able to hear about had they not taken the stand. So there's so much to consider when it comes to raising your hand saying, yes, I want to testify, or no, I waive my right to testify. And the jury will be instructed that they should not hold a defendant, this is any defendant, their choice not to testify against them. And it would really be improper if during closing arguments, let's say, if the prosecutor got up there and argued in closings, he did all this talking, but he didn't want to talk to you. He didn't want to take the stand. That would just be very wholly improper. It'd be the type of thing I would expect a motion for mistrial right there. And if it was objected to, I would imagine it would be an appealable issue. So lots to be seen here, depending on whether or not he'll testify. Do you guys have any predictions on who the defense might call? What I think will be interesting is we had Mike Dorsey, who was the documentarian, but a lot of his work was kind of like a relay or kind of hand in hand a storytelling of the theory, the vision of the case that Greg Kading formulated. And Mike Dorsey on the stand pointed to the attorney and was like, you have your own conspiracy theories. Do you have any evidence of those? And maybe that's something that made the jurors curious or maybe dismissive of the defense attorney. Well, if the defense attorney can get some other members of law enforcement that had active participation in this investigation some way, and state didn't call these individuals, but they have some information to put forth. Or what if they have information that contradicts what other witnesses said? Could that change things? Could that change things? So I'm just excited to see. I always love watching trials in general to see the dynamics. I imagine some trials you don't always have to make play calls, but in general, I think trials involve being able to pivot, being able to like think on your feet really quickly. If you get an unexpected answer, maybe they always say you never want to ask a question you don't know the answer to, but real life doesn't always work out that way, right? Or sometimes you think it's worth it to take the risk. Well, what if you need to shift really quick in response to the answer that you get, right? I just think it's really cool to watch everybody in the courtroom, all the moving parts, move around and do what they do. Looking down at the chat, Serena says the defense should just rest. Joseph Tuthak, thank you for being a member 23 months. That is almost 2 years. I was about to say it and then I read your comment saying almost 2 years. That is incredible. Thank you so much for your support. And good to see you. Hope you've been doing well. We've got, okay, is this Keats or is it Kdes or Kedes? I need the phonetic pronunciation in the chat. Thank you so much for becoming a member. And I think this is a serious, while I don't like personally to frame anything as it doesn't matter. You know, there are 12 jurors for a reason. Some states don't do 12 jurors for all types of crimes, but there's multiple jurors for a reason because the point of deliberations is to go back and have different discussions. So I think it's important to say it could be important. He confessed multiple times. He wrote a book. That's adopting it as the truth. Why would you do that if it wasn't the truth? And I see court starting up. That's, I'm sure, at least one juror is going to be back there discussing that. But I don't know. I would hope that 12 jurors don't just go back there and think, look at any one piece of evidence and just go, it doesn't matter. He wrote a book, that's enough.
377-407. We are now into defense case. Defense has a couple witnesses to get through. State has some rebuttal witnesses on deck in case they decide they want to call them. Anything we need to address outside the presence?
No, you're right. No, you're right.
Okay, let's bring the jury in.
Getting right to it. Getting right to it. But yeah, for jury deliberations, someone could go back there and say, but he didn't start writing his own book until Kading was putting it out there anyway. Kading was putting that proffer information out there anyway, more specifically. All right, and so when you have those discussions, similar to having a YouTube chat feature, which is why I love the feature, that discussion can evolve like a linear thought into something much more complicated and nuanced.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah, I agree.
Well, they are hot miking. I don't know, guys. Do you think this looks like the I'ma take the stand outfit? Put a 1 in the chat if it's an I'ma take the stand outfit. 2 in the chat if no. He's just chilling at the defense table today.
parties stipulate to the presence of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now into the defense case in chief. Mr. Stamp, who will be your first witness?
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to call Stan Height to the stand.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like we're going to get some exhibits.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Stan Height, H-Y-T.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Stamp, you may proceed.
Sir, I'm turning your attention back to the year of 1996.
Yes.
How were you employed?
I was with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I was an officer working overtime on that date.
Okay, and when you say you were working overtime, how does that work exactly? Explain to the jury.
When there's certain special events, they ask people to, officers to sign and volunteer to work overtime assignments. They pay time and a half.
And you know what the reason was for the need for additional officers on this particular night?
It was a night that Mike Tyson was fighting. It was a collective of people getting together for partying. They wanted to keep the peace, basically, keep things civil.
Right, and with regards to those types of events back in the day when we had boxing as our main feature,
Right.
There's a couple of us in the audience that probably is unfamiliar with how Las Vegas was. Can you describe for us a little bit about the just overall amount of people coming to Las Vegas for something like a fight?
Well, Mike Tyson was a big name. Obviously, I'm sure most of you all know him. He was making like $30 million a fight. He was winning his fights within a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I think that particular night he did also. He won one of his fights, got paid big, and they were ready to party.
Now, and just to be fair, your role was not to deal with the Mike Tyson fight.
No, it was the Suge Knight
Should not.
event. Yeah.
So you were, and just explain a little bit for the jury, what were your role that night? What were you supposed to be doing?
Basically, just keep the peace, make sure there was no fights, no shootings, nobody get killed, type thing.
Okay.
That was basically our.
And when you say you were there to make sure to keep the peace, where exactly were you
At
stationed?
Suge Knight's residence, there were several of us hired to do this assignment.
I'm now going to show you what's been marked and admitted
Yeah, well, admitted by stipulation, Judge.
Okay.
by stipulation. Looks like defense BBB, defense AAA, defense YY. May I approach her?
Okay. Those may be admitted.
Thank you. Let's take a look at these until maybe recognize.
Yes, that's the area that we were assigned, right?
You have
That's
the
the
entry.
entry. Okay, yeah.
And then just look at this one as well.
Oh. It's the same one. And that's an extended view of it, yeah.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit YY. This, can you explain to the jury what this image is here?
This is the neighborhood involved. The green area, the park area up above would be,
So what you can do, sir, because we don't have a way for you to
Okay.
do that. First and foremost, is this an overall view of the Las Vegas Strip? Looks like the airport and a few other things.
Yes.
Okay. You could actually step down off the
Okay.
chair if you want and just point to an area that we're talking about. But before you do that, I'm going to show you what's been marked and admitted already as defense exhibit AAA. Do you recognize this photograph?
yes,
The pickleball complex.
And can you explain to the jury what this photograph is?
that's the area of the, I think it's Sierra Rancho Estates, where Suge Knight lived.
Okay. So up over here, just for the jury's edification, what would this be?
It's just a desert area.
Okay. Are you sure that's not the airport?
Is it? I don't see any runways, but I'm gonna have to take your word on that one.
That's fine.
Okay.
Down over here, do you recognize what this is here?
It's a golf area. Uh-oh.
You can get a little closer if you want to that screen if it helps you with your vision.
You know, this is 20 years ago, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's almost 30 actually.
Yeah, basically it's just Sunset Park, the whole, that's all.
If you could just help us out real quick and just point to the general area in which you were assigned that particular night.
Okay, I believe it was, I can't with any certainty, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what we're looking at here.
No, it was adjacent to the park, I'm not getting it's been too long for me.
Okay. You can guys just sit down for that. Don't worry about that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's been 30 years. Now, let me ask you this, though. Fair enough to say, as a police officer, if you are called to testify, God forbid, 30 years after an event occurs, what would be the material you would use to help refresh your
My officer's report at the time.
Right. And with regard to these officers' reports, for instance, critical piece of your tool set as a police officer?
Very critical.
So, like in this case there, you don't remember 30 years later certain things? Yes?
Right.
Okay.
I've really never patrolled that area. That was just an assignment for that one night for me.
Sure.
I've always been in the Northwest, so
No
I
worries.
wish I could have identified Suge Knight's residents better.
Now, in this particular regard, I'm going to turn your attention to the Suge Knight residence. Can you tell us what you actually did at the residence?
I was with another officer, and we were at a gate, and we basically stayed at the gate while an entourage of vehicles came through. Approximately 15 vehicles came through, and the last one being Suge Knight's.
Okay, now, with regard to the entourage of vehicles, where did they go?
In through the gate. I never went in through the gate, so I didn't see where they went after they entered the gate.
Okay. And with regard to the vehicles that went in, did you recognize or give note of any of the vehicles that were in there?
The last one was Suge Knight's. It was a cream-colored Cadillac.
Oh,
And I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. The last
Say it again.
one that you had was a cream-colored Cadillac?
Yes.
And why do you remember that vehicle?
Just pointed out to me at the time. It was occupied by two black males,
Okay.
and I didn't know Suge Knight at the time. I was kind of, interested in, looking for Tyson at the time, and they just pointed that vehicle out to me as Suge Knight's.
Yeah. And fair to say, though, that sometime in the future, you were asked to obviously write a report on that particular issue?
Yes.
That was your officer's report?
Yes.
And in that officer's report, did you include the mention of a cream-colored Cadillac with two black male adults in it?
I did.
and it's in the contemporaneous report. This is big. This is very helpful for the defense.
Now, after your view of the Cadillacs going into the residence, how long after that did the shooting of Tupac Shakur occur?
Probably half an hour later that they came out, and it was probably 10 minutes later Mike Tyson actually entered. It's probably another 10 minutes after he came out again, and it was probably 10 minutes after that the shooting took place.
Okay, and just for the jury's edification, when you say Mike Tyson entered, meaning he came into the residence?
He came in, but not with the entourage of the first 15. The first 15 vehicles went into the gate. They all came out again. Mike Tyson went in the gate. He came out, and then we left. And at that point, maybe it was approximately 10 o'clock, I think, the shooting took place.
Okay. Sir, I have no further questions of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Hang on, Mr. Height. They might be cross.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mr. DiGiacomo, do you have any cross?
Very little. Officer Height,
Yes, sir.
if you could explain to ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when officers at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department want to work overtime, they can sign up for special events, and then the police department assigns you where to go for that particular event.
Yes.
And usually that works by a business or a lawyer or something setting up with the sheriff or one of the sheriff's employees a special request for, hey, I want officers for this particular event.
We have a special event. We had a special events section of the police department that businesses that would promote events would contact, and they would ask how many, They would ask how many officers they need, and officers would be called, and then we would show up at the assigned locations.
And so on this particular night, it was Metro that assigned you to this location in order to keep the peace for whatever reason.
Yes,
You indicated that you were mainly at the guard gate,
yes,
and you saw a sequencing of events that occurred at the guard gate.
yes.
At some point after the homicide, did somebody direct you to write your report?
Yes.
And during the course of that, did you know, well, first of all, who directed you?
I believe it was my lieutenant at the time.
Your lieutenant said, hey, we should document this.
Yes,
And one of the things you documented was not only that you were there, but that the guard gate security detail was called Allied Security, and that they maintained a log of the vehicles that went in and out.
I believe that's correct.
Thank you very much. Nothing further.
Are they gonna
Anything
have-
for Mr. Sam?
Yes,
Or rebuttal?
Mr. Hyde, just one final thing. When you're doing this kind of work, it's for additional hours, right?
Yes,
What were you wearing on that particular night?
uniform,
And is that always the case?
yes,
So even if you're like, say, not at Suge Knight's residence, but say at some other club area in the parking lot, you'd still be wearing your
Yes.
uniform? Okay. No further questions, John.
there
I
are
wonder-
different bureaus that can get assigned different things. I was uniformed, so I was always uniformed. There may be detectives or others that would respond differently, but my assignments were I was uniformed, so I was always in uniform.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
1 second.
Yep.
Ladies
Jury
and gentlemen,
question?
jury, any questions for this witness? We have some.
I wonder if the state will call a rebuttal witness with like the guard gate records to show that the Cadillac never left Suge Knight's residence again that night. The cream colored Cadillac, which could be white, could be light colored, as described by an eyewitness who's trying to remember what they saw. So let's see what the jury is curious about, or at least one juror, not the whole jury. Also, I see it raining gifts in here. Big thank you, Kristen, dropping 5. We also have BMAC come in, say just got here. Hi. Hi to you too. Good to see you.
A couple questions from our jurors. Did you notice any damage or bullet holes on on any of the cars that came through the gates at Suge Knight's residence, especially the white Cadillac?
No, there was no damage done.
No damage. Were any of the crew members carrying guns?
I didn't see any guns on any of the entourage people, no, because they were all in their cars. We all had guns,
Okay,
uniform,
got it. Did you see the cream colored Cadillac leave?
yes. They all left.
Okay, when was that?
Close to 10 o'clock, I would say,
Okay,
maybe 9:30-ish.
got it. Mr. Sant, any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
No,
Okay, thank you. Now you're free to go,
Okay.
Mr. Hyde. Have a good day.
you too.
Thanks.
So,
Mr. Sant, your next witness.
Thank you. Your Honor, we'd like to call Charles Mangrum, please, to the stand.
Charles Mangum. Okay.
so I don't expect that there would have been bullet damage by the time they were coming back from the Tyson fight because the shooting hadn't happened yet. So I'm a bit surprised that the defense didn't do a follow-up to reorient the timeline. I think that could have been clarifying.
do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Charlie Mangrum, CharlieMangrum.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Snap, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mangrum, turn your attention back 30 years from now,
Okay.
on the night of September 7th, 1996, what were your employee doing?
I was assigned as an overtime officer in charge of 3 other police officers to monitor a party that was supposed to happen at Suge Knight's house located on Tamiyasu.
Okay, I'm going to show you here some maps. I just wanted to see if you can help identify where this is located. May I approach?
Yeah, you may.
For the record, showing you what's been marked and admitted. That's not good. This would be Defense Exhibit CZ.
You don't have that? That one's not admitted yet.
Oh, it has not. Let me just back it up here. This is Defense Exhibit YY, Defense Exhibit AAA, and Defense Exhibit BBB. Just take a look at this one. When you're done.
Okay?
Do you recognize those aerial photographs?
Yes.
Let me just go ahead and say that they've been admitted already by a stipulation between the parties. I'm going to just put this up on the screen for everyone to see.
Okay.
So with regards to the first photograph here, which would be, I'll take it from this. Thank you, sir. The first aerial view here, this would be Defense Exhibit YY. Do you recognize this?
I told him it wasn't admitted.
Yes.
Now, just a general idea though, what is this a image of?
It's an aerial view of the gated community where Suge Knight lives,
Okay.
of Tamiyasu.
All right, and just because of the fact that we're looking at an overall aerial view, it looks like it's Las Vegas.
Yes.
Can you step down and just point to the jury where on this photograph is the location of Suge Knight's house?
On this,
Yeah, you did step down. Thank you, sir.
this was a gate, and Suge Knight's house was just about next door to the gate.
Okay, so just for our edification though, it looks like there is a, would that be an airport that's right there to the left?
Yes, it's Harry Reid Airport.
Okay, and the major cross streets that would be the area which we're talking about here, would that be what, Sunset and Eastern?
Tamiyasu runs to Sunset, and Eastern is to this direction.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you now what's already been marked and admitted as Defense Exhibit AAA. Is this a closer image of the area that we're talking about?
Yes.
All right, can you point to the jury where that area is?
Sunset Park. So this would be this is Suge Knight's area here. That should be Tamiyasu.
Okay. And then just one final image here. I'm showing you what's been admitted to by stipulation, ZZ. Can you describe or tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Mr. Snap,
This
this
is
isn't
the-
admitted.
Tamiyasu
I'm sorry.
up to,
Sir, Mr. Mayor, hold on for a quick second.
Yes, I apologize. Mr. Sampson and I stipulated to all of these maps. I think maybe he didn't make the best record about that. So, but all of the maps that he has, we agreed to by stipulation.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's admitted via stipulation. Go ahead.
Thank
Good
you.
call by the
Yeah,
judge.
Go ahead, sir.
Or clerk, maybe.
yes, this would be Tamiyasu. And it's a nice house, would have been just on the north of the main gate that we were working that night.
Okay, and that's all we need for you for that purpose. Now, in terms of what your job was that night, what were you assigned to do?
Apparently, there had been other parties following Mike Tyson fights at Suge's house, and the HOA or association had some issues with the number of people and the number of uninvited guests that showed up, and they wanted to have some police officers there to help keep the peace.
All right, and can you tell us what you were wearing on that particular night?
I was wearing a uniform,
All right.
police uniform.
And when you were there, were you able to notice any of the traffic of vehicles going in and out of the residence area?
Yes.
Can you describe for us any of the vehicles that had either gone in or out of the resident area?
Yes, at approximately about 10:10, 10:15, Suge Knight driving a BMW, blue BMW, with Tupac in the passenger seat, came to the gate, and followed by, I believe, probably 5 or 6 other vehicles in line, which I described in my OR report.
Okay. Now, just to make sure I'm clear with the R report, you don't have to do that right now, but with regards to your R report, is that something that you do as a police officer, is write a report?
Yes,
Now, in this case, obviously, you're just helping with potentially a party that takes place. There's no party that takes place, right?
no,
Were you asked by anyone to write a officer's report after your time working on this particular night?
yes, I was. I don't recall who that was, so, yeah.
That's fine. And so the officer's report you wrote, fair to say that that's something that you have done throughout your career as a police officer?
Absolutely.
And what's the reason for an officer's report?
Documentation, so that in the future, you have something to go on, if need be.
Now, with regards to your recollection for that night, did you, what were the other vehicles that you remember entering into the residence area of Suge Knight and leaving the area of Suge Knight's residence?
Well, Suge and Tupac were there approximately 30 minutes, and they exited back out, followed by a cream-colored Cadillac, compact vehicle that was occupied by 4 females, and a few other vehicles that I had referred to my officer's report on. But later on, following the time that Tupac and Suge left, Mike Tyson showed up as a passenger in a Bentley, followed by another Bentley that I believe was Don King's son. And we informed them that Suge Knight had told us that the party was no longer going to happen.
I see.
And then they turned around and left.
I see. And then your report was written, how long after the event that occurred that you're telling us did you write your report?
It's dated the 19th of that month.
All right. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Mr. DeJacqueline, you may cross.
Lieutenant, you wrote this report at the direction of homicide?
I'm not sure. It might have been the PIO's office or someone investigating the case.
On the second page of your report, it shows this was copied to Detective Brent Becker, P number 2838/homicide. So
Okay.
this would have been something that you would have sent to homicide to let them know this information.
Yes.
Now, in looking at your report, you indicate that, would you agree with me that at 21:30 hours, it's you and Officer Quick that are actually at the residence of Mr. Knight talking to somebody there, and Mr. Knight's not home?
No.
Then you say at 2200 hours, Officers Schmidt and Height were at the guard gate
Yes.
when the cars came in.
When they started to come in, yes.
And then at 22:15 hours or 20 hours is when you arrive at the gate.
Yes. Approximately, yes.
And at 22:30 hours is where Suge Knight driving a black BMW with Tupac Shakur in the driver's seat, followed by the rest of the caravan, leave the residence.
Yes.
Now, what you received today, I believe you have there, is a two-page report, and mine's a lot, has a bunch of attachments to it, so I just want to show you.
Report? No.
So, that appears to be your two-page report.
That's the officer's report.
There you go, in the front. Is that your officer's report?
Yes.
Okay. And then behind it has basically all the various special assignments going on that night in the valley. You need your glasses to look at that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this.
All right.
Okay.
And that's just Metro kept record of all the various special events that evening and who was assigned where in case we need to
Correct.
look into that later.
Correct, yeah.
And then after that, there appears to be the gate log with the plate numbers of all the vehicles that were going in and out of that particular gate.
Okay.
Does that look accurate?
I haven't seen it. I've never seen it.
By looking at that, does this suggest to you that Metro Homicide in 1996 followed this lead and followed up on it?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, as to leading.
It's cross-examination.
Oh, yeah, you're on cross.
I'm on cross.
Sorry, this is weird. Yeah.
Overruled.
Thank you, I have nothing. Oh, and when that white Cadillac left that guard gate,
Yeah.
it was occupied by two black males as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, further.
Mr. Stamp, anything further on the redraft?
Yes, Your Honor, just with regard to the last question that was asked by Mr. Giacomo, sir, he says that it was a white Cadillac. It was either white or cream, as far as you know. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
That's what you wrote in your report.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, anything further, Mr. Giacomo?
No.
On cross. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? We may have one.
Let's see. Also, big thank you. I got cut off earlier while I was thanking Sheriff Chuck. And then in the meantime, he dropped 10 more gifted memberships. So super appreciative of all your support. Guys, if you just turned green, say thank you.
Could you say what model of caddy?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Sam?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. DiGiacomo?
No, you're
Okay, thank you, sir. You are free to go.
Thank you.
One more witness.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Dan Long to the stand.
Okay.
We're getting Detective Long. Oh, just put some all caps rant, guys. We are getting Detective Long. Put all caps in the chat. Say whatever you want that won't violate YouTube service. No personal insults. Put all caps away in the chat. Yeah.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this section shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Dan Long, DANLONG.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Sams.
Thank you, Honor. Mr. Long, taking your attention back 30 years to September of 1996. How were you employed?
Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
And at the time, what was your assignment?
I was a detective in gang crimes.
All right. Do you recall the night of September 7th, 1996?
I do.
What were you doing at that particular time?
I was on a gang enforcement team, and we had stopped a bunch of juvenile males about a block, more than a block, to the east and to the south. We had been requested to patrol that area because there had been some incidents, and they wanted to know if these were gang members. We had stopped them. We were talking to them. They were not gang members. And then we heard a volley of gunshots.
Okay, and when you say to the east and south, where exactly to the east and south are we talking about?
I'm sorry, Koval and Flamingo, we're one block to the east, and we were on a side street to the south. That area doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. Showing you a map here, an aerial photograph. This is defense exhibit YY. Do you recognize this map or this aerial photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and what is this of?
It's Flamingo and Sand Hill, Flamingo and Koval is where the shooting occurs. The airport's right to the south.
Real quick, the importance of Detective Long is he was the one who was investigating this during the time that we get these the information of the 2008 proffer that took place in Los Angeles, but then the 2009 statements where Las Vegas Metro was present, and then we still do not have charges brought. So this is a detective who didn't think those statements were credible or that there was enough or what have you. So pretty big witness for the defense.
Carriage House is just to the south of where the shooting occurs. And we were, if you zoom in, I could show you where we were.
Here's what we'll do. If you could just step out of your chair, just get up next to the screen. I'm going to get this a little closer for everyone to see so we can figure out where you're at. Does this help?
All right. There's an area here that's been bulldozed. You can see where the streets and the alleys had been right here. There used to be an apartment complex right there. There was one alley, 2 streets, and the area command that had that area wanted us to check to see if these were gang members. We went in, we stopped some juvenile males. They were not gang members, they were just juvenile males. While we were standing there talking to these males, we heard of all the gunshots. We didn't want to talk to these males anymore, so we jumped in our vehicles and we moved to the shooting scene.
Okay. And what you're pointing at for the jury, just for the record, is the intersection of Koval and Flamingo?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Now, fair to say, of course, you're there conducting your business as a member of the gang unit.
That's correct.
You weren't there for overflow or anything to do with special events
No.
for the fight?
No.
Okay. Now, for some of us who weren't around during this time period, can you describe for us a little bit about the activity that was going on at the time in terms of the streets and people walking around when you heard the shots being fired?
It was packed. It was extremely, there was people everywhere, people walking, traffic was fully backed up. We had to get into the intersection, we had to use, we were in non-marked cars, so we were in plain cars.
We moved into the intersection using red lights and sirens. We moved across, people were waving at us and pointing. There was a vehicle there that became of interest to us. Some girls had been shot at. While we had gotten out to talk to them and find out what was going on, we had no idea this was attached to anything. One of the guys on my team, Dean O'Kelly, found some cartridge cases in the street. So we started moving our vehicles in the area to block off traffic so they wouldn't get run over, and putting up yellow tape.
Now, once again, were you in charge of the investigation of either the shooting or the eventual homicide?
No,
All right, so at the time in 2000 or 1996, you were anything other than your gang unit detective?
right. And at that time, we had found a shooting scene. We don't know what we have. So we're just securing the scene in case there are victims. And then we would find out what was going on.
Now, at some point in the future, though, as you progress in your career, did you ever at any point leave the gang unit?
Yes.
And what did you do after that?
In 2000, I was invited to test to go into homicide. I then tested for homicide and went into homicide.
And what year was that?
2000.
Now, during the time that you were in homicide, that would have been from 2000 to roughly when?
I retired from the department in 2017.
So you spent 17 years in homicide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, during the time period that you were in homicide, were you ever assigned the case involving the Tupac murder?
Yes.
Okay. And you hesitate a little bit, I just want to make sure. You were given the assignment at some point?
Yes, I was. 2004, my sergeant, Kevin Manning, handed me the file and said I would follow up any further leads.
All right, and can you explain to us a little bit about how that works? You're a detective. The file had been with somebody else prior, Detective Becker.
Yeah, Detective Becker and Detective Mike Franks.
And now you have the file. So
Yes.
what do you do as a detective when you're handed a file that's already been worked on?
You read it. You read it. I went through the pictures. I then discussed it with my sergeant. I went down to California. There was a lot in that file, and I didn't know Compton very well. I didn't know Compton at all. So I went down. I had ridden in the gang unit with gang detectives, and I knew them still. So I called and said, "Can you take me around and show me these things?" So we drove around Compton. They showed me houses where the Compton Crips lived. They showed me where Orlando Anderson died. They showed me a lot of different things. And Compton was very small, but it was very impacted with gangs.
Now, during this time period, can you describe for us a little bit about was there still an interest in the murder of Tupac at the time that you took over the case? Meaning, was there media attention, maybe not to the level it was in the beginning, but was there still issues with regards to access to the file and that kind of thing?
Yes, there was.
And-
Now I know where you're going.
Yeah, and what I mean by that initially is that even in Metro, was there any concerns on your part about unauthorized access to the file?
Not by me, I wasn't concerned, but my lieutenant had become concerned and wanted to sequester the file away from everybody else because there was a lot of people going in and looking. Very, very famous person.
And with regards to the going in and looking, can you describe to the jury what type of activity we're talking about here in terms of going in and looking?
I didn't do any investigation in this, but my lieutenant told me that people had been going in and being curious, looking at the file.
Did you at any point, was there any measures that was taken to preserve the safety and security of that file?
Yes.
What were those measures?
They locked down the file itself, which was the hard copy of the file. We used to, at that time, we were on a computer drive called the F drive, which turned out to be too small, and they later moved it to another drive because homicide just kept growing. So they they changed the way I did my reports. I would hand them in, and they were secure.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about reports. What reports are we talking about here?
The one that popped into my mind, the very first one, there was supposedly, this was an anonymous tip that there was a rolling 60 apartment over on Reno that was slinging drugs, and that the people that shot Tupac had driven up to this apartment and handed the gun off for drugs. I then attempted to locate, usually gangs are going to rent an apartment, they're going to rent it in a girl's name. So I was looking, and I'm talking 8 years after the fact. I'm talking about trying to find an apartment rented by a girl that has association with the Rolling 60s. I never found it. So I couldn't track down the 60s that may have the gun that would be attached to the killing of Tupac.
I see. And during the time that you were performing your duties as the detective on this particular file, did you ever keep your own officer's reports?
Yes.
And just explain for us a little bit about your, common course of how you would do that.
An officer's report is like who, what, when, where, why. So you say that there was an anonymous tip. Let's just talk about this tip. Anonymous tip at this date. I did these phone calls, met with this apartment complex, and couldn't locate anybody that was attached to the Rolling 60s in any fashion. So it literally would be an officer's report that's maybe a paragraph. There was another tip that the gun had been dropped from the shooting vehicle that went back to California that night, and it was on the side of the road. Ridiculous. But 8 years later, we went out and we walked that section of the freeway, both sides, looking for a gun. We didn't find one. That officer's report was about a sentence. And those kind of things, those kind of things are the things that we were trying to run down.
All right. And so in terms of officer reports, fair to say that there would be a lot of officer reports of your efforts in this particular investigation?
Those officers' reports don't exist anymore that I could find.
Okay. And why is that?
From what I was told was when we moved from the F drive to the H drive, those reports had to be scanned, and at some process they were lost.
So what we're relying on, clearly, it would be your recollection of what you remember from that time period.
Correct.
Okay. And once again, if you don't remember, you don't remember.
Okay.
Okay. Now, at some point, though, you have an opportunity to interact with law enforcement officers in Compton. Or is it, no, I'm sorry, at that particular point, it would have been the sheriff's department, LA Sheriff's.
Yes, I usually went directly to LAPD, but yes, the sheriff's office also.
LAPD. Can you tell us a little bit about any interaction you might have had with them, specifically about a firearm?
You're talking about the 06?
Yes.
Corey
Yeah.
Edwards.
I received a phone call from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department saying that there was a gun recovered by Compton PD in 1998. The yard of 1301 Sloan, which is inside the Compton area,
Corey
the
Edwards.
Compton Crips area, I should say. And they believe that this gun was supposedly buried in the backyard, and it was turned over to the Compton Police Department. The Compton Police Department dissolved, and so the Sheriff's Department was starting to run all these guns through ATF and ballistics, and they believe this may be the gun that we were looking for. They were fairly adamant that this was the gun that we were looking for, that was the murder weapon of Tupac. I then made a drive to LA with my sergeant. We picked up the gun. They had it in a evidence box. I assigned a receipt to them that they kept. I then drove the gun back to Las Vegas, drove it directly to our ballistics lab, and I turned the gun over to Jim Krylo. I then filled out a request to have that ballistics tested against the gun that was used to kill Tupac. Before I managed to drive back to the office, I received a phone call and they told me it was not the gun. I told him that he wanted me to come back and impound it and put it into our evidence vault. I told him I'd come back in the morning and I would pick up the gun and I would take it back to LA because it may be of interest to LA in another crime.
Okay. And outside of that particular incident, were there any other instances where you found what potentially could be the gun in this situation and had it tested?
Myself, no, but there were thousands of guns that were tested.
Wow.
And as far as you know, as the responsible detective at that time, were any of those thousands of guns come back with a hit or match to the spent cartridge casings that we found in the scene?
No.
Now, in addition to that, at some point in the future, you travel to California again to conduct an interview.
Yes, sir.
That would have been in 2009.
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about who was there in that interview?
Sure. Myself and my lieutenant, Lou Roberts, made a drive after I received a phone call saying that there's somebody that wanted to give information about Tupac and Tupac's murder. We then drove down on the morning of September 9th. They wanted us to meet them at the HIDA office, which is at 1340 West 6th Street in LA, which is about 6 blocks from Plaza One. We met them there. I would then met Detective Darren Dupree, and he told me that Duane Davis, also known as Keefe, was in the interview room. He had his attorney present, whose name was Wayne Higgins, and we were going to go in and he was going to give me information. And he further explained that Keefe had got caught with a large amount of narcotics and was trying to work off those charges.
Now, sir, and just to cut you off at that part, I apologize. But with regards to that information, at some point you conduct an interview in that room
Yes, sir.
with Mr. Davis.
With Mr. Davis, with his attorney. My lieutenant didn't want to go in, so Darren Dupree agreed to go with me.
All right. And there was a recording. Did you record the meeting?
I did.
Okay. And is that just standard operating procedure for what you do as a detective?
Yes, I was told that they were going to record it also, but I wanted to record it myself. That way I have it in my hands.
Okay. And during the course of that meeting, you learned information, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the interaction here? Were you ever asked to leave the room?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us why you were asked to leave the room?
Mr. Davis became very nervous. I was asking questions that he didn't feel comfortable with, which is to be expected. And he asked me to leave the room. He wanted to talk to his attorney and he wanted to talk to Detective Dupree. I then stepped out of the room for not very long, and then they asked me to come back in.
Was there ever a time that you left the room and was accompanied by Mr. Dupree and only had Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis in the room by themselves?
I don't recall that.
So every time you left, Mr. Dupree was in the room with Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, you were able to learn some information?
From Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When you came back, did you corroborate any of the information?
I tried.
Okay, and what did you do? What efforts did you make?
During the interview, Mr. Davis indicated first that Orlando Anderson, or Baby Lane, had been beat up at the MGM, which we all had video of. I think everybody on the planet has seen this video. He was complaining that his arm was either broken or out of socket. He first told me that they had gone back to California and had gone to the hospital in California. But he said they went to the hospital on Maryland Parkway, and the hospital on Maryland Parkway is Sunrise, and that he had gotten a sling for his arm. So I filled out a subpoena, and I wanted to know if Orlando had signed in, was examined in any fashion. And now we're talking, this is 2009. We're talking about somebody coming into the emergency room in 1996. So I didn't find anything. They couldn't apply, they couldn't give me anything with Orlando's name on it. I then, we were looking into, there was a rented Cadillac, rented in Compton by a friend of the gang. Her name was, or her daughter's name, there was a woman by the name of Harris. And first name could have been Teresa, could have been Tessa. And again, we're talking multiple years later. But I called down trying to locate a Cadillac that was rented in 1996. They said it was a friend of the gang. So it's very possible that there was no paperwork on it. But we're going to try. I called multiple rent-a-car places because he couldn't remember which rent-a-car place it was. I never found anything connected to that date or those dates around that for a four-door white Cadillac of any kind.
Now, in addition to that, sir, did you ever run at some point any names to determine, sort of help you out with the landscape of who's who and what's what? For instance, did you ever run a name by the name of Darnell Grimm?
Oh, you're talking about before the interview.
Yes.
When I received the call that we were going to go down and do an interview, I ran everybody that was in the file. And the purpose of that being is if I'm in the middle of an interview and he mentions somebody, I might have information, this person's in jail, this person's dead, this person's in prison. Those could be very useful to me in the middle of an interview. When I go into the interview, I'm going to be acting very non-informed. I don't know anything. Please tell me. So he's like, okay, we were going after, we're talking about Pac. Okay, who's Pac? Well, Tupac, Shakur. Okay, so I'm going to do that through the entire interview. But if I have more names and more information, I at least know what he's talking about so I can direct him in the right direction to give me a full name or a full description, whatever it may be. So I ran quite a few people before I went down there.
Okay. So at some point you leave that interview and you come back to Las Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Were you ever aware that in 2008, Mr. Davis gave a proffer to the FBI, DEA, Compton PD, LAPD?
While I was there?
Yes.
No. I was told that he had been, Duane Davis was arrested on a major drug case, and he was facing the rest of his life in prison. And he was trying to work that case off. So when I was sitting out there and I learned that he's sitting there with his attorney, I'm like, he's not going to tell me anything. And they're like, well, he's trying to work this off, and it's about Tupac. And I'm like, all right, let's try this. So we went in. But we finished, we made a drive over to Plaza One, then we left. I received some phone calls at that point and received more information when we got back to Vegas that there could be possibly a proffer, which made no sense to me.
Now, just one final question for you, and it's unrelated to anything that we've asked so far.
Sure.
The question is this: are you aware of a program here in town called Barry's Boxing?
I've heard of it.
Okay. I have no further questions, John.
Mr. DeJacque.
Detective, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mark? I'm District Giacomo.
You went to homicide in 2000, correct?
That's correct.
And Mike Franks and Brent Becker, well, I guess Mike probably retired before Brent left the unit, correct?
Well, he trained me for a while. Mike was preparing to retire, so the desk I was going to get was his. And I was trying to soak up as much as I could from him because he was a very, very senior detective. Him and Brent Becker were very, very good detectives, so I was trying to suck up as much as I could. That was the squad I was going to anyway.
And when Sergeant Manning hands you the Tupac file, you already had an understanding from Mike Franks and Brent Becker of who you thought was in the car.
Yes, sir.
And when Mr. Davis in 2009 tells you that, it's the same people.
Yes, sir.
I think maybe missed one of your trips to Compton prior to, I guess, November of 2004 when he died. In early 2004, did you try and make contact with Big Dre Smith?
Yes.
And describe that for us.
I was with actually a gang squad, and this is during the time when you can read it all. You can read all this information, but it's better if you go down there and look at it. So I went down to look at it, and they were taking me on a tour. Most of Compton, they took me to the car wash where Orlando died, that kind of thing. While we were driving by the Emerson Elementary School, which is right in the center of the Compton Creek turf. Some of the guys I was driving in the back seat and taking notes. They said, "There goes Big Dre, DeAndre Smith," which is somebody that's obviously in Brent Becker's files, and he was walking through the field, the grass field. So I was like, "Well, stop. Let me talk to him." You got to try. I have no probable cause. I have no legal right to make a stop. I'm not even in my jurisdiction, but I can try. So I stepped out of the car and I said, "Mr. Smith, I'm Detective Long from Las Vegas," and he said, "F you and F off." He's not censoring what he said, and he just lumbers across the field. So I had no reason to stop him, so I just waited.
Now, in 2009, you wind up in a room with Mr. Davis, and your belief is he's trying to work off charges.
Yes,
What
sir.
does that mean?
He's looking at the rest of his life in prison for what they had caught him with. So if he gives substantial information about cases, and that's what they had brought him in for, was to give information about cases. One of the cases was the Wallace case, Notorious B.I.G. During this part of it, he started telling them about Tupac, and this is in 2008, I believe. So that's what I was told.
But essentially, and I don't want to talk about specifically, what is just working off your charges? Does Metro have certain rules, let me ask you, about working off charges and how you work off charges?
Yes, and a non-victim crime, you can work off charges. You can't work off a murder, you can't work off a sexual assault, those are victim crimes.
Press F to
If you
doubt
have
in
a
the
victim,
chat.
you can't work off those charges. But if you have something else that, like a lot of drugs, you could work off maybe the amount of years you're going to do by giving substantial case information on other cases. So that's what I believe that Mr. Davis and his attorney were trying to do, was to knock off a certain amount of time off of what he was going to spend in prison.
And you know, or at least you believe, you'd agree with me, that Mr. Davis was a suspect in your homicide, not a witness.
Yes, sir.
And by the end of that interview, what is your intent?
My intent was to drive back to Las Vegas, type up a warrant for an arrest, clear it with the district attorney, and have Mr. Davis arrested for murder.
Now, at that point, did you and members of my team have an opportunity to actually listen to the recording?
Yes, sir.
And we heard the section where you're not in the room, correct?
That's correct.
And then, so did we give you some direction?
Yes. So this is several weeks after I'd come back. I met with, this is several weeks after I'd come back from California with the recording. So we brought the recording and the transcription over. The DA reviewed it, and they invited me over, and they told me that they were not going to go forward with prosecution at that time because they're.
Let me ask,
a lot of complications.
let me ask it this way. Were you directed to find out the circumstances of why it was that a suspect in our homicide was in a room with his lawyer and a task force officer having that conversation?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you've been told there might be a proffer somewhere out there in 2008.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And proffers are between lawyers and sovereigns, correct?
That's correct.
So it's either got to be the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, but it certainly wasn't the state of Nevada or the Clark County District Attorney's Office.
That's correct.
And did you make efforts to find out from Wayne Higgins what the nature of that agreement was between him and some other sovereign?
Yes, Mr. Higgins as well as others.
To reach out to Darren Dupree to see if
Hold on. Law and crime feed just, it looks like it restarted because it's only been going for a few minutes. Let's find that question. Look how much it's jumping back. I wonder if they had to cut something out of their stream today. Oh, they did say an address earlier, didn't they?
Because they're.
Let me ask,
a lot of complications.
let me ask it this way. Were you directed to find out the circumstances of why it was that a suspect in our homicide was in a room with his lawyer and a task force officer having that conversation?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you've been told there might be a proffer somewhere out there in 2008.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And proffers are between lawyers and sovereigns, correct?
That's correct.
So it's either got to be the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, but it certainly wasn't the state of Nevada or the Clark County District Attorney's Office.
That's correct.
And did you make efforts to find out from Wayne Higgins what the nature of that agreement was between him and some other sovereign?
Yes, Mr. Higgins as well as others. Yes,
And you would agree with me that Mr. Higgins wouldn't return our calls.
that's correct.
Did you attempt to contact U.S. Attorney Seawright?
Yes,
And you would agree with me, Mr. U.S. Attorney Seawright, at least at that time, would not return our calls.
correct. Would not speak to me.
And by the time, well, let me ask you this. Based upon that situation, did you get directed to reach out to Darren Dupree to see if we could get leverage on the driver, Terrence Brown?
Yes, I did reach out to Detective Dupree and Clarence Brown is a gangster
Clarence?
operating in Compton, California. So he's going to be committing crimes. I asked him if he gets arrested for whatever reason to give me a call, and I want to come down and talk to him. Yeah.
And ultimately, that never happens. You never get a phone call saying, hey, we got Bubble Up in custody. Come down here. Let's interview Bubble Up.
Correct. Bubble Up is the street name for Mr. Brown.
And so by the time you retire in 2017, we have no statement from Bubble Up.
No.
And we still don't know the circumstances surrounding why those three people were in a room talking to you.
No. I believed I did at that time, but obviously I didn't.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Redraft.
Sir, can you tell us who from the district attorney's office you were speaking to during that time period?
Mostly it would be Pam Weckerly.
Who was the other United States or the district attorney as well besides Pam Merkley?
The entire MVU.
Was Mr. DiGiacomo one of those individuals?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the time, who was the elected district attorney? Was it?
Mr. Wolfson?
Was it Steve Wilson?
Yes.
Now, not David Roger?
No, I don't believe he was there anymore.
All right. Now, your testimony here is that you had every intention when you came back to charge the case.
Yes, sir.
And when you came back, you reached out to the district attorney's office and you said, hey, we think we should charge this case.
Yes.
And they did not immediately give you a response as to what they were going to do.
No, they told me to stand down and they were going to review it. I got the information to them as quickly as I could. It had to be typed up by one of our secretaries, but I did make sure they got the audio as quick as they could. There was plenty of probable cause to arrest for murder.
Sure. Now, just for the jury's edification, probable cause is not beyond reasonable doubt. Fair?
I'd say that again. I'm sorry.
Probable cause is not beyond reasonable doubt, right?
No, that's what we do here.
That's correct. And in terms of the information that you had learned at the time that you met with Mr. Davis, did you verify any of that information?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Did you verify any of the information in that recording in 2009 that Mr. Davis said?
I wasn't able to.
And once again, verification meaning corroboration, right?
That's correct.
In fact, I think on the recording, you had told Mr. Davis a couple times, look, even though what you're telling me you might say is the truth, I still need to corroborate this information.
That's correct.
And that would have been your standard operating procedure with anyone telling you anything.
That's correct.
So for instance, as you're sitting here right now, do you have any?
I'm going to object to leading. It's his witness.
I'm sorry, I'm so used to
It's hard,
it.
I know.
Let me ask it this way.
You better rephrase.
Yes, I'll rephrase. Did you make, was there any information that you ever received about whether or not Mr. Davis was in Las Vegas in September of 1996?
Well, objection leading.
He can say yes or no. I'll overrule.
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
And was there, did you ever have, when you reviewed the file in this case, were there any people calling in saying that they did it? They did the murder?
Sure.
I mean, can you give us a number or an amount?
There was a lot. There was quite a few. I mean, I had information that Bill Clinton had him killed. I mean, there was no, he did not follow up. There was a lot of calls, a lot of people claiming to have been involved. No.
Yeah. And fair to say though.
Most of the time, they couldn't get any of the information correct.
Right. And so when you're determining, for instance, a confession, what are you looking for? Like, if someone says, I confess to this, what information do you use to determine whether it's correct or not?
They're like, what kind of vehicle were you in? How did the shooting occur? What kind of firearm was it? Where did you go from there? What preceded it? How did you? All of it. I mean, anything that you can find as in facts, you want to connect to them. I'm behind the eight ball because I'm 15 years after the fact or 14 years after the fact trying to corroborate different things. But I mean, I made the attempts.
And with regard to the information that we're talking about here, was any of the information you're sharing with us already available to the public?
I don't know. I'm sure there was information that's out there. I mean, there was so much interest in the case, I'm sure there was.
Now, just finally, in terms of your reaching out to people, Mr. Seawright, who was he?
The Attorney General of California.
Redirect.
Sorry, I don't know why that's doing that. Sometimes that happens. All right, we got a little bit of redirect left. So let's go back to his last questions.
Your public.
Yeah, because now this law and crime stream's it's short again.
Information that
As in facts, you want to connect to them. I'm behind the eight ball because I'm 15 years after the fact or 14 years after the fact trying to corroborate different things. But I mean, I made the attempts.
And with regard to the information that we're talking about here, was any of the information you're sharing with us already available to the public?
I don't know. I'm sure there was information that's out there. I mean, there was so much interest in the case, I'm sure there was.
Now, just finally, in terms of your reaching out to people, Mr. Seawright, who was he?
The Attorney General of California.
And the district attorney's office requested that you reach out to the Attorney General of California?
They were going to do it. I was going to do it. Whoever could do it, which would be great.
So did you?
And then in terms of the other people, Mr. Dupree or Detective Dupree, when was the first time you ever met Mr. Dupree or Detective Dupree? I apologize.
I'm not positive.
Was it in the meeting at 2009?
No, I met him before that.
Can you give us sort of an estimation as to when that was?
A couple of years before. I think it had to do with one of the gun trip, I think is when I met him.
And just for my edification with that gun, was it a real gun?
Yeah, Glock 40. There's a lot of Glock 40s out there. I had no idea there was that many.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
Real briefly. Well, Mr. Sam said, were you able to corroborate information that Mr. Davis gave you? You're talking about information you didn't already know, correct?
Correct.
There was a substantial amount of information in this file that Mr. Davis, Mr. Brown, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Smith were in the car the night when the murder occurred.
Yes. The way I took when he asked me that is, did I do cooperation? Brent Becker and Mike Franks, the original detectives, corroborated a lot of different things. I didn't specifically go back in time and do what they did.
So then why weren't they
You were
arrested?
relying upon the information they already had. So when Mr. Davis is telling you this story, it's not like the crazies that are calling saying, I killed Tupac or Tupac's still alive or all any of that stuff.
That's correct.
Nothing further.
Any redirect? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for Detective Long? If you have a few.
Well, that was interesting. I always love when a witness that I feel like should have been called by the state is called by the other party. You know, I think the state asked good questions. There's certain things from the testimony of all these witnesses that both sides are going to use in their own favor to support their theories that they're arguing to this jury. But I think it's so weird that the detective testimony that we had produced by the state was a few from like the 1996 to 2000 window, and then we just jump the gap, and everybody else, it comes in through a surrogate or a little bit through Miss Gaddis, who testified yesterday, who said, well, I don't really know, I didn't really work on that, I kind of came in to try to rope people up to get them to come to Nevada to speak in this trial, to come testify as witnesses.
Oh, we have one more question.
Oh, they're coming back up. In the meantime, holy moly, Kristen dropped another 15 gifted memberships. Super, super generous. They're like turning the entire chat green today between Sheriff Chuck gifting and Kristen here. So big, big thank you to you both. Make sure if you just became a member, say thank you. Check out the channel emojis. There's a woo 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 one in there for this trial. You've got to do some teamwork though, because it's only one woo at a time. So have some fun with it. And thank you so much to those who are generously gifting. Kristen, Sheriff Chuck, always holding down
When your
this
lieutenant
channel.
said too many people were going into the Tupac murder file, what did they mean?
Yeah, good question. Officers were curious, and they would go in and see what was in there because there was a lot of stuff in social media. So they were going in to look and read. So he decided that wasn't going to happen anymore because the information could get out. so he locked it down.
Were you the only one assigned to Tupac's case?
In 2004, Sergeant Manning handed me the case to do any follow-up. There was a full squad I was on, 6 detectives and a sergeant. All of them were available to help. And we had some very experienced, very talented detectives on the squad. So I would lean on them. Everybody's curious, why would they hand the case to a rookie? But I had access to some very, very experienced, excellent detectives.
Were you able to interview everyone who occupied the cream or white Cadillac? Or is alleged to?
No, I tried to talk to Big Dre, DeAndre Smith. He died that same year. Orlando died in 1998 in a shootout at a car wash, and Mr. Brown died in, I believe it was 2015.
Did you ever interview Suge Knight about the shooting during the interview process?
I tried. I had a partner that had played football with him and knew him very, very well, and I was complaining that I could never even talk to Suge on the phone. So my partner says, oh, I can make a phone call. We can have it right now. And he made a phone call, talked to Suge, and Suge hung up on him. So it was same old same.
Do you know which arm was hurt, right or left arm, for Orlando Anderson?
No, I do not. Sorry.
Good question.
Were you able to verify and confirm Mr. Davis was actually in the white Cadillac the night of Tupac's murder? Yes, that's the question. Sorry, the handwriting is...
Can you read it again?
Yeah. Were you able to verify and confirm Mr. Davis was actually in the white Cadillac the night of Tupac's murder?
By Mr. Davis telling me that he was in a white Cadillac on the night of the murder. And that the shooting came from that same white Cadillac.
Any
Wow.
follow-up based on that, Mr. Saft?
But no actual facts outside of what Mr. Davis told you.
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. DiGiacomo?
Wow.
You are excused. Thanks, Detective Long.
Thank you.
No fireworks this time.
Who said no fireworks this time?
Mr. Saft, any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Do you rest?
We do, Your Honor.
State any rebuttal witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
So
State has no
not
rebuttal?
reopened your case. Okay, so at this time, the presentation of the evidence in this case is closed. What we have to do amongst ourselves is settle the law that applies to this case. And we are going to have everyone back on Monday at 9 a.m. for closing arguments. Please, during the recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected to this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, the internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until it is submitted to you. Please rise for the jury, everyone.
Man, that's a rough final question. Let's see if there's any housekeeping. And then we'll get to chatting.
All right, the jury is exited. You can be seated. Scheduling wise, what remains to be done is jury instructions being settled. What time do we want to do those tomorrow? I was leaving that up to defense because there were some obligations that they had.
We're still asking for 9 o'clock.
Does 9 o'clock work better for you? We'll do tomorrow at 9 then?
Yes.
And I think we should be done by the time that you need. And Mr. Davis, do you want to be present to settle jury instructions? It's up to you. It's kind of like legal arguments. If you want to be here, we'd be happy to have you. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to. We'd be happy to have you. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to. You want to waive your appearance for that? Okay. So I'll then just see the attorneys back 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's not presentation of evidence, it's just settling the jury instructions, should be pretty quick. And then the next big thing for everyone watching at home is gonna be closings 9 a.m. on Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll see everyone back 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, and that's where the court case seems to. Oh, what did he say?
Thank you.
On Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll see everyone back 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Thank you.
He wants the extra half hour. He said 9:30. And then it looks like they go to the seal, you guys. So, at the beginning of the stream, I mentioned that Kathy Roussan with Law and Crime mentioned that court might be dark tomorrow, meaning that there isn't going to be a broadcast of the jury charge conference. And the judge did just give a comment there, like, for everybody watching at home, come back on Monday. So it seems like probably not going to have a court feed tomorrow for the jury instructions, which maybe it's not your interest anyway, but if you're interested in that type of thing, sorry. Yeah, if they do go live, I'll go live. That's how we'll work that one out. Whew. What do you think of that? That's the end of presentation of evidence. Closing arguments, you cannot just introduce new evidence in your closing argument. So whatever either side wants to argue, this is just kind of an interesting case because inherently both sides are arguing from the same foundation. Here's Keefe D's statements. Here's why when he says he did this crime, it's not credible and the state hasn't met their burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. And then on the flip side, the state's arguing, here's his statements. He did it. He repeated that same thing. There were details that were very specific. He was consistent with those statements, right? So they're kind of like working from the same, it's almost like an existential crisis within the courtroom. And I've said it all week. I hate reading tea leaves on jury questions, but I am confident that one juror there is highly skeptical. And someone being skeptical of the investigation, that could be someone who thinks, hey, maybe Keefe D really did do this. But if I follow the instructions that it's the state's burden here to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that, I don't know who's asking all the questions. If it's only one juror that's asked that type of question, state needs 12 for a conviction. And those questions, I mean, I don't know how you can read some of those questions either way, but maybe that person will get back in the jury room and discuss it, re-listen to some of the exhibits and feel like things were verified. Or maybe that person will get back in the jury room and they'll kind of be the leader. If it's just one person asking those questions, they're confident putting their question out there, putting their thoughts forward. Maybe they'd be highly engaged and willing to participate in the deliberations room, and maybe others would listen to what they're saying. Like, these jury questions have been such an interesting part of this trial. Not every court allows a jury question process as witnesses are on the stand. This court does, and I think it's been enlightening to watch in the context of this case where the questions are all focused on the law enforcement investigation and their process, their verification. So it's crazy. You know, we should have no tolerance for the idea that somebody could go mess with a case file because they might be curious and want to go gossip publicly on social media. So they're messing with information that's in the case file. First of all, that's disrespectful to the integrity of the process, victims who might have like sensitive information out there. But it's the type of thing that can get people falsely roped up in things or lead to people wanting to pursue conspiracy theories online or vigilante justice because they see something in a case file where someone called in and gave a tip that so-and-so did this and they run with it. They don't understand that that tip wasn't verified and might very well be bunk. But it gets put out there. The idea that an autopsy Polaroid photograph of Tupac was leaked to the public. You know, all of that stuff is like, what is the benefit of it besides maybe satisfying curiosity and or getting some clout if you take credit for leaking it? Speaking of clout, we have a witness up there saying hundreds of people lied, claiming that they killed Tupac. Which, on one hand, that goes to the idea of, like, maybe you guys just don't know. Maybe you guys didn't vet all of the leads because it was overwhelming and you were already focused in one direction. It also goes to show that there are people out there, if a juror cannot relate because they personally would never write in a book that they killed somebody. And that's a very real sentiment to have, right? Like, why would you write this in a book if you didn't do it? You're opening yourself up for risk, and it's a kind of crass, like, just like, why would you do it? I feel like my noise is more expressive of any words I would have for the idea that you would go and write a book celebrating killing somebody. Just my take. But then to hear that there's hundreds of people who did the same thing, calling in to falsely claim it, that can help someone on the jury understand how something could happen that they can't picture themselves doing. The idea of the Cadillac. Now, I think there's some jury confusion about the Cadillac, especially based on the one juror question was like, oh, were there any gunshots? Because it appeared to me that the timeline of the Cadillacs and the other car, not Cadillacs plural, the cars, including the Cadillac, arriving at what was supposed to eventually be a party at Suge Knight's residence, it happened before the shooting time frame. They were still driving around. Maybe they're going to be on their way to Club 662, but there shouldn't have been, even if there was crossfire, there shouldn't have been bullets on any cars then because the shooting hadn't happened yet. But what's interesting, even though hopefully that juror like puts the timeline together, or in deliberations they'll figure it out, they are seemingly thinking about, was there crossfire, or was there only one vehicle, one gun that fired? And if it was this cream-colored Cadillac that was spotted with the entourage that night, with Suge Knight's entourage, and he's not the one alleged to have been driving it, it's just two black males driving this cream-colored Cadillac, seen within the group. Would there be something visible on the car if someone had shot back? So, but I think people are thinking it's a signal that they're thinking about the forensics, trying to think about the physical evidence. And then we end with this witness who's like, we know the defendant did it because of his words and because we know it happened. We know the shots came from a Cadillac. Like, does that really seal the deal? And also, put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of the premise of even when someone's facing a crime that involves victims, a possibility that they could work it off in part. Maybe not just get out scot-free with like the best sweetheart deal ever, but get a reduction in the charges, some type of agreement for leniency in the sentencing recommendation. I thought it was a bit weird the way Detective Long, with kind of a long-winded answer, tried to discredit the proffer, or maybe distance himself from his belief that there was a proffer agreement in place at the time Vegas did their interview in 2009. I thought it was a bit unusual. I don't know. So we have Cuff Boys in the chat. Man, if you don't like listening to me for hours, Cuff Boys does the best recaps out here. So make sure you check out Cuff Boys. And I'm sure I'm so busy with this trial, but I would imagine Cuff Boys is probably covering some of the other trials that I am trying to keep up with. So, Cuff Boys, these questions are crazy. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if you caught that last question, but the jury's like at least one juror, right? Because it could just be one juror thinking these things, but the state needs all 12. That's the state's problem. The state needs all 12. And while the defendant might not want a hung jury, because the state could come around and say, we're going to try you again and do this all over again, the defense kind of has two better outcomes than the state here. Hung jury or an acquittal. And the state needs 12. The only outcome that the state wants is all 12 agreeing that they have met their burden to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt that Keefe D ordered this hit, ordered whoever was in the backseat to fire these shots and kill Tupac Shakur. So, all right, you saw the tweet. Crazy jury question. And not the first crazy jury question. So, and then we've got these other issues. Did you follow up with... The witness said Clarence instead of Terrence Brown. He really meant Terrence Brown, talking about Bubble Up. Did you follow up with the others that were in the car? Now, of course, if this guy he's not part of this case in 1996 through 1998 before Orlando Anderson is killed, right? By the time he's on this case, there's no possible way for him to physically interview Orlando Anderson. But what about the alleged other passengers of this vehicle who are still alive? And so he describes his efforts at trying to talk with these people. And for Big Dre, he gives this long story about how he's driving. Someone happens to notice him walking. Right? An opportunity. You just come across somebody. Is that really an effort being made to connect with and get statements to corroborate or see what somebody will say if somebody else is putting them in the same vehicle and saying you're the one that may have fired that shot because they handed the gun to the back seat? That to me doesn't seem like somebody who's doing what I would expect a detective to do to try to get someone to sit down. And sure enough, he does say, well, ask them if I could talk to him, and I kind of waved to him, and that was it. Sure, Dre probably didn't want to speak to some guys who looked like they were detectives driving around. But in what world where we're finding out that they were taking out phone pings to try to get witnesses to show up to testify here, Corey Edwards included? In what world is that a satisfactory effort where you happen to be driving? The other law enforcement officers you're driving with are like, oh, hey, that's Big Dre. And you're like, oh, let me try. Oops, he doesn't want to talk. That's it. It's just so subpar. So subpar. And again, this is a high profile case. It's like, what hope does like a little Joe Schmo investigation have? So what else do we have? We had, since we don't have a rebuttal, one of the reasons I think we don't have a rebuttal is I do think the state was able to ask a good amount of questions through the cross-examination of the 3 defense witnesses. What I think is always a fun dynamic, because this is the defense's case in chief, and you kind of heard both parties chuckle about it, the first objection that the state puts forward about the leading, it's almost like the state was delayed in realizing that the defense was leading a witness, because they're usually not in the position to have to observe the defense, not leading, because on direct examination, you're not supposed to do leading questions. On cross-examination, you can. And in a lot of cases, the state, it's their burden, they put on their case in chief, and sometimes the defense doesn't even put on a case in chief at all, which means the positioning, the posture of the case the entire time is the state always starts off with direct examination of the witnesses. They're never the ones cross-examining a witness in their own case in chief unless they get the witness declared hostile. So it's kind of cool to see like everybody in the courtroom realize and remember, oh yeah, we've switched hats now. The defense attorney goes, oh yeah. And the judge is even like, yeah, you're usually not doing direct. And they all have to switch that, just like a little court thing. Truth Hurts says the problem with the gang culture, nobody wants to talk to the police, period. I agree, right? I think it's a strong point from the state to point that out and to have witnesses talk about that. What I think is the problem is it's like they seem to be putting all of their eggs in the basket that Keffe D talked and nobody else will talk, and that's why we can't corroborate anything else. It's almost like, to me, they're coming on a little too strong with the emphasis that, well, we're not going to find out anything anyway because nobody's going to want to tell us anything. And it's a bit hard to reconcile with well, we have these statements because somebody was trying to work something off. Like, you're kind of reminding us of the process of how you can get people to talk if you are looking for information. Well, also on the flip side, when it comes to things that you didn't verify and nobody's even sure who tried to verify or tried to do something, you just go, well, nobody would want to talk anyway. So it's such a valid sentiment and a valid thing to put in front of a jury, especially if somebody on the jury might not think of this. You've got to have a witness explain how that's a reality. But I also don't think it's, if you're missing corroboration in your case, you can't lean on that wholly. So it'll be interesting to see closing arguments. One thing I've been waiting to see is how much they lean into this in their closing. To say, like, look, we made all these efforts. We made the best efforts. Everything we did was hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, and tears. But just nobody wanted to open their mouths because that's code. And is that a characterization that those jurors are going to agree that's all it was? That's why we have no verification. Yeah, and good point here. Good point here from WTR Studios. And it's not just that. People don't like to talk to police all over the world. And that's why I think it was such important testimony from Ingrid Stokes, who specifically, like, she explicitly said, like, I just don't want to talk to police. With no code there was no code behind her saying that. It's just a general sentiment of the way police treat people, especially people who look like myself. Why would I want to go back to the scene and cooperate that? Of course I was hesitant. And then you have the story followed up with Mr. Jefferson, who's like, look, I'm just a civilian witness. I try to stop at the scene. Somebody's bleeding. It happens to be Tupac. Somebody's bleeding. They need aid. And then cops pull up and a gun is pulled in my face. So, of course there would be hesitation and caution when it comes to speaking with law enforcement about this thing that just occurred. So, and C. Carrera is saying any attorney worth their salt would advise you not to speak to 12. There's that. I have just such a grievance, and this is really would kind of be a rehash of the earlier days of trial. But what the heck was going on with Wayne Higgins? What the heck was going on with Wayne Higgins? Just, I don't know. He seemed like he was part of the crew that was doing the interviewing and not an advocate for his client, if you ask me. Like, yeah. Going back to the previous conversation, Alhambra says you might get shot trying to help. We had two different witnesses because Edie Mean said the same thing yesterday. He had a shotgun pulled in his face. Like, why would someone want to just, like, have a nice, friendly conversation? Even if, like, in their mind, they're like, all right, let me just disregard that. It was just a mistake. Like, sometimes your physiology, your physical reactions to things, even if you want to overcome them, like you're thinking like, all right, I can move past that. Sometimes your body, your instinctual reactions do not catch up. Like, so of course you could startle somebody's memory and mess up their recall of the important information that could help you with your investigation because you do something new and traumatic right in front of them that's going to take all of their, like, mental resources to process and react to. It's just, like, it's just no bueno. No bueno. Also, I wanted to check on, after giving it a few minutes, I do want to see if Kathy Roussan, and I don't know if you guys use X, if you don't already follow Kathy. Give me a second, I'll drop her link. And it might kind of be like a little late on this trial because we have one day left and then deliberations. But if you plan to continue to watch different trials after this, Kathy's a great person to follow for when trials are starting, if it's going to be televised. She does daily breakdowns when she has the time to. And sometimes she'll be talking about more than one case at a time and be like, hey, they just recessed for the day or they're starting late today, so don't try to watch early in the morning. So great person to follow if you plan to watch more cases. And I haven't seen her say, I do believe court's going to be dark tomorrow, but if she says otherwise, I'll let you guys know. Also, I do want to big thank you here because I knew more came in. Sheriff Chuck with another 5 gifted. So big thank you here to Sheriff Chuck turning the entire chat green. Now, in YSL, we had a running joke because we heard the criteria, the gang criteria that like Georgia law enforcement uses to figure out who is a member of a gang, what it takes to qualify, and who could be an associate of a gang. We got stuck on the definition of 3 or more wearing like colors and doing similar symbols. So we had a little joke here that we are growing the KNW gang through these memberships on the channel. So welcome aboard. You are now green, which is you're wearing the same color. And if you use the channel emojis, you will meet the criteria of being part of the KNW gang. We are open to hybrid gangs here, another Fulton County favorite. Yeah, use the woo 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 emojis there. But all in good fun. Big thank you again to Sheriff Chuck and Kristen for turning so many people green. It's a fun way to support the channel, so I appreciate it for 2 reasons. You're helping me, but you're doing it in a way that's cool for others too. VMAX says, I was gifted a membership 20 months ago. KNW rocks. What's cool is sometimes you can like, depending on if you're in a chat when someone's gifting and your gifted membership previously is about to expire, sometimes you can just keep going with it too. And thank you, VMAC, for all your support. You might be OG status around here. So, oh man. Guys, this morning, I finished uploading and organizing all of the video clips from every single witness in this case. And I believe 28 witnesses total. So I already put Stan Height and Charlie Mangrum up. I'm going to do Detectives Long's after the stream because there were some chops because of the Law and Crime Fiend updating. But if between now and closing arguments, you want to go back and rewatch any testimony, you can rewatch my live streams, but if you want to condense it down, there are videos of just the raw testimony with breaks removed. I'll leave a little bit of a tidbit so you can see when court fades in and out. That way you know there was a break. But it cuts out all of that dead time. You can go back and revisit any part of the case. For witnesses like, was it Michael Ingram and Kenneth Rios? They were 2 witnesses that were pretty much brought in to talk about the MGM surveillance video and the fight, and speaking to Orlando, where you can kind of see it on the surveillance, speaking to Orlando Anderson right after the fight. So witnesses like that I grouped together in one video. That way if you want to deep dive the surveillance, the layout of the MGM, that testimony is thematically grouped. So all of that is available for you to run through. If you'd rather read, I do try to put some like written notes in the descriptions of videos. I'm not consistent. I get sloppy with it because I just sometimes forget and lose track and forget to go back and update things with details. But my notes, tupactrial.kattnotwilliams.com is where my proper written notes for every single witness live. So you'll see day 9 added there today. And then that will be it. That will be the last of the additions besides the closing argument video clips because the proof is closed. So with that being said, let's do a poll while we wrap this up. Poll is a good way to get your vote in anonymously. Do a quick rundown. It's not a perfect science, right? Because, you know, maybe the people who come watch trials on this channel have certain inclinations walking in. So this isn't a perfect cross-section of what everybody in the world might think about this trial and what the jury might do. But it's fun. It's for good fun. So let's say we're going to do a how would you. So this is how you would personally, if you had to pick a verdict as if you were the only juror, your verdict would be. Only 2 choices there. If we find out that there's going to be lessers, we can get more granular with it. But for right now, remember, the only thing is first degree murder as a principle, theory being that he was the shot caller when whoever was in the back seat got the gun handed to them by Keffe D, and that person fired the shots. So place your votes. Feel free to express your opinions in the chat as well, but polls are a way to, if you don't want to say it out loud, you can do it there. So let's see that run up. Yes. Sheriff Chuck says, this chat's actually a perfect sample of the whole world. Ah, I see bringing back the green hearts. Is that a YSL callback? Yep, see, Carrera have counsel is the rule have counsel. I don't know if that, and I don't know if Wayne Higgins counts for that. So your rule is very good, generally speaking, but I think there are some circumstances where just any old counsel might not get the job done. So, yeah, Antoine, I think this is such an interesting perspective, and again, that juror who seems to be, I keep saying the juror because I don't want to characterize a jury question as belonging to the whole jury, but there have been several questions that seem to express, to come from a place of skepticism towards, has the state met their burden? Has law enforcement really investigated this and overturned the stones they need to look under and kind of done like the common sense checks? I think there's at least one juror who is questioning if the evidence that the state has presented is enough. And that might not mean they don't think Keefe D is guilty. So, yeah, so there is, and do you pronounce your name as Shy? Because I don't want to say it wrong. My brain always wants to say like Zia, Shy. Like I never know how exactly to pronounce it. So I need phonetics like all the time. Because I can't have you guys like say your name out loud so I can know how to say it properly. But I have seen that clip, and I don't know. He's on a high profile interview. My first gut instinct would be like he's playing coy. And if somebody's playing coy, it typically would mean they're not being forthcoming with their response. So Orlando Anderson is asked if he killed Tupac, and he kind of gives like this lean back, like, and he's like kind of denying it, but not really. But at the same time, what if that body language could be he knows who did? It could have been the other person in the car. Could have been the other guy, Corey Edwards, who placed himself in Vegas that night, knew details of the shooting, and he and his mother aren't home when law enforcement wants him to come testify at trial. You know what I mean? So that body language, it could imply some association without necessarily being like body language, meaning I'm the one who pulled the trigger, literally myself. But it was very odd body language, and the jury didn't get to see that clip. So, and then since he lied on the proffer, can he be indicted for perjury? Kind of a complicated question. So, the sentiment you're getting at is something that I think the defense is arguing goes in their favor and explains why Keefe D didn't start like putting together a book, wasn't doing these paid interviews until others, Greg Kading, Mike Dorsey, were already taking his proffer information and putting it out to the public. Right? So the risk of perjury, especially since we heard some, steering, bumper guardrails. You go bowling, you put the bumpers up so the bowling ball stays in the lane. You kind of had a bit of Higgins and Dupree making sure, corralling Davis to stick to the statement he gave in the proffer when he was speaking in 2009, because you don't want to lose your leniency. At the very beginning of the 2008 proffer with the U.S. attorney, the AUSA president, the AUSA was reminding, like, I need something or I can't help you. I need you to tell me something or I can't help you. If you can't help me, this goes away. Right? So not just perjury, but the idea, especially in the short term, the years that followed, whatever the statute of limitations for the charges he was facing where he got the sweetheart deal, they want to revoke the deal, revoke the probationary sentence he got. That was all a risk weighing over his head. Then on the flip side, if the state wants to charge him for perjury, that wouldn't look good for them because they're relying on his statement saying that he was telling the truth. And it would also open up a bigger can of worms, like you've relied on Keefe D as an informant for years. And you're charging him with perjury. So if you want to argue that your own informant wasn't credible, I don't know, do you see that being something someone would want to do? I think it's more of a vehicle to put pressure on somebody to, you said these things and now you need to stick with it. You can't turn around and say that wasn't the truth later. So. Yeah, Antoine says, I was really hoping that they were going to bring Suge there. I mean, there are a few witnesses I think would have been interesting to hear from. And remember, the state estimated that this case would be several weeks long. This is, you count jury selection, that was a week long to seat the jury. But the presentation of evidence, even with the half days, we started last Monday. So we are physically in week 2, but this hasn't been full days. And we're not even making it to Friday. So I think, I don't know if that's the result of poor estimation of time, or maybe the state made some play calls, had to make some adjustments in who they weren't going to call, changed their mind as trial progressed and said, we don't need to call that person because we already got it squared away with another witness. Or maybe based on how the jury's reacting, we don't need to go through these hoops. We think they're receptive to what we're saying. So let's not drag it out and maybe call a witness who could be kind of risky for us. I don't know. I don't know what made that difference. So, but it certainly seems like they had planned to go at least a little bit longer than they did, even if it wasn't going to be a 6-week trial ever. But yeah. So guys, let's wrap this up. Let's see what you guys put in the poll and get your last minute votes in. We'll give it like 60 seconds. While you're doing that, let's raid somebody. Let's go to someone else's turf. All right, I'm not going to say names out loud, but I'm looking at the first 5 options of who YouTube would allow me to redirect to that are live right now. So drop any number 1 through 5 in the chat, and whatever number I see the most, that's who we're going to raid. That's who we're going to raid. So spam some numbers in the chat. And it'll all be like Tupac-related discussions. So. And also, who said we need the Tupac hologram to come testify? All right, let's end the poll. All right, so the chat poll, your verdict would be, we have 58% not guilty and guilty at 42%. That is how the chat would vote. I don't know which individual chatter would vote which way, but that's the breakdown here in this chat. So, okay, wait. Okay, you can't vote 3 numbers. Oh, wait, 1 is your, okay, I get it now. 1 is your final answer. All right, I see 2, the 3s are winning. The 3s are winning. So unless we get another 1, unless we get 2 more 1s, we are going with option 3. And I almost just said who. Now we have a 5. 1 more 3 takes it. The chat goes silent. All right, there we go. So 3 is Take It to Trial, talking about the Tupac murder trial. If you don't know Take It to Trial, you will love it over there. Sweet Pea's chat is hilarious. Sweet Pea is the host. Her chat is awesome. If you enjoyed hanging out here, you will love it over there. And I haven't hung out with her in a little bit, so I'm going to pop in the chat over there and see what she and her chat are thinking about this case. And sorry, you got your 4 in too late. You would have been the only 4 vote. So there we go. You can't vote twice. And that is set. So if you can't hang out much longer, at least go over there, say hey to Sweet Pea, Take It to Trial. If you want to see the other trial she covers, she's always covering a trial. And if you like trials, great channel to follow. Hit the subscribe button before you go on about your day. Other than that, you guys have a great one. Stay tuned for the upload of The Last Witness. Check out those replays of any of that old testimony. Maybe see you tomorrow if we have a jury charge conference being streamed. And definitely see you Monday. Definitely see you Monday for closing arguments. I really can't wait. I've enjoyed doing this with you guys. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions and catching details of this case and doing this as a chat. And see you guys whenever the next time is. Bye, guys.